How did you discover your kink? Tate. So, I used to mock people who had choking fetishes until I started reading about it for a fetish ranking game with friends. And I just thought, wow, this sounds kinda hot. Then, in one particular hot night, I picked a collar and put it in my neck and pulled that sucker all the way in, and wow. So I don't kink shame anyone choking collar kinks anymore cause friendly fire is too loud. I know this sounds real sad, but when trying to choke myself out or trying to finish my life the hangway, I found out how my neck is strong, and I have a kink to having my neck kissed or sucked because of how at the same time it was sensitive. Yeah, how trying to die went to now enjoying my girlfriend hickeying my neck, lol. To be honest, I still are on the suicide train, but I have recently been getting some help, so maybe in the future I won't try to kill myself again. In high school, I read somewhere that girls like it when you bite their bottom lip while kissing, so thought I'd try it out. Later that day, girlfriend's at my house, I tell her what I'm going to do. She starts saying I don't really see the appeal, or something along those lines, but I go in for the kiss before she finishes her sentence, and bite her lower lip and let it slip between my teeth as I pulled away. After our mouths were separated, all she could say was, "Fuck, where do you learn shit like this?" More recently, my wife and I were in a toy shop, and her attention was grabbed by a modified Wartenberg pinwheel. It was only $10, so I got it and was more than happy to use it on her, but it looked like it would be painful to use, so I was hesitant to let her use it on me. Well, she used it on me when she had me blindfolded, and it quickly became one of my favorite toys. And for those curious, it wasn't painful. I'm a teenage male, have this one close female friend who's quite, how do I say it, odd, like me, who I have a crush on. And one day, she was hanging out with some of her friends, and they decided to take her phone and use it in our group chat. So, later, to prove it was her using the phone, my close friend decided to send a foot pic. She later sent multiple other foot pics to me, and that's how I discovered we both like feet. But sadly, she's got a boyfriend who I'm also close friends with, so I can't really make a move on my close female friend. Was working at a shoe store when I was helping someone out. She was wearing a skirt, and I was just innocently looking around the store when I saw her standing over the mirror. That's when I learned upskirts were where it's at for me. Really inconvenient fetish, cause I can't just look up PPLS clothes. Still awesome when you get to see it by accident. Pretty much accidental exposure is hotter than total nudity for me. My girlfriend at the time and I were playing an adult version of Cops and Robbers. Her the cop and me the robber. There were elements of hide and seek in the game. As the robber, I would sneak around the house, filling my pockets and satchel with random items. I'd be caught eventually, of course. My woman did her best arresting procedure, cuffing and frisking me. She was very methodical in emptying my pockets, inserting suggestive questions in my ear as her hands touched intimate places. I've been aiming to be the world's worst burglar since then. I remember playing games with the kids in my apartment complex. There was one particular day where a group of us split into two other groups and waged war against each other. I remember getting caught by the other side and being pinned down and then tied up and gagged by a few kids and not being released for a while. That's when I realized I really enjoyed the feeling of being overpowered and restrained. I can definitely pinpoint exactly where my pregnancy fetish came from. When I was around 12 or 13, my friend's mom gave me a bunch of books of stock photography so I could use them for drawing reference. Of course, the one nude image in the book was of a heavily pregnant woman, and of course that was my first time seeing nudity. It kind of changed over time though. It went from just liking big round bellies to specifically pregnancy. I love the idea of being caring and nurturing, and knowing that a woman is going through so much physical discomfort because they want to have a child with you is like an emotional turn on. Like, the physical shape of her body turns me on physically, but I kinda need that emotional side to enjoy it now too. Honestly, I'm so turned on by the idea of being completely controlled by someone else. I get off on being treated like a little child who doesn't know any better and needs a little smack. I can imagine it would take over my real life too. I get turned on by the idea of working and having all my money go out into my dom daddy's bank account, and I'm not allowed to spend any of it. He controls me completely and I'm not allowed to do anything unless he says so. I'm not allowed to even ask. I'm really into feet, armpits, deep throating. The works. Tie me up if that's what you want. My body isn't my own. I want it to be a vessel for someone else's purpose. I just someone to call daddy. I think I have a problem and just realized what it might be after fully writing this out. When I was about 10 years old, I watched this Chinese TV drama. How I ended up finding that show is another story in and of itself, but perhaps I'll tell that some other time. Anyway, the premise of this show was that this modern Chinese girl was totally obsessed with ancient China, and one day she got sent back in time to the Qing dynasty. She meets these two guys, both princes, who fall in love with her. She starts to fall in love with one of them, but he finds out his brother likes her too. And for the rest of the show there's this subplot of his sanity slowly unraveling until he literally hates her. Oh my god, that character did things to me that my little 10-year-old self did not understand. And here I am, 12 years later, still in love with both Asian men and yandirs.